Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Madisonville Marine. You have one day. Great deals on Yamaha motors through tomorrow. Up to $1,750 back on select models of G3 and Suncatcher pontoons through tomorrow. Discounts up to $5,000 back on select models of Godfrey pontoons through tomorrow. All kinds of deals at Madisonville Marine. It's always a great time to buy, but my goodness, the specials they have going on right now through tomorrow. Get down to Madisonville Marine. There is no better place to buy a boat. All right, Notre Dame, UCLA, Colorado, Iowa, Cal, USC, Oregon. Just a few of the schools that Tennessee has put on their non-conference slate in past years. And while the Vols do face Oklahoma this year, a look at the SEC's future schedules over the next decade shows that Tennessee has the weakest ledger, basically the weakest ledger of all but one other school. Now, Tennessee hasn't announced most of their schedules. If they filled them, they haven't told anyone. And the other schools out there haven't told anyone. So there's just a lot of holes there. The problem is there aren't a lot of people with open dance cards to put in now. What brought me to this, and I'm going to show you in a second, Stuart Mandel of The Athletic had someone ask him about the end of, could COVID wipe out the start of the season non-conference games on the neutral sites? And his point was, well, now you got most of the big boys are not only playing one Power 5 school a year, they're starting to play two. And that got me looking. All right, I know Tennessee, they got Oklahoma, they got Nebraska. Then your big game's Pitt. You got another one with BYU. You don't have, who else is on there? And I looked at the other 13 schools in the SEC. Take a look at this list. In terms of Power 5 foes that are on the schedule for SEC teams over the next decade, Georgia will play 22. Florida will play 19. South Carolina 14. So the SEC East, and granted, somebody's going to say, well, they got Florida State, Clemson, and Georgia Tech every year. Yes, and they're still going out and scheduling another Power 5 team on top of that. Tennessee, 6. 6. That is it for the next decade. Now, you can add some, but a lot of the good ones are already taken up by these other schools. Why are you lagging so far behind? It's not like you're the only school that's had a change in the athletic director position. Let's take a look at the next graphic here, and what this shows you is big boys versus big boys, all right? So these are the other 6 big schools in the SEC and who their fans are going to be facing, and I think that's part of it. If you're going to lose at Neyland Stadium, at least lose to UCLA and Notre Dame instead of Georgia State and BYU. That would be my suggestion. If I'm going to ask people to pay for tickets, I'm going to give them something to watch. Alabama, over the next decade, 2 games with Florida State, 2 against Notre Dame, 2 against Texas, 2 against West Virginia, 2 against Wisconsin, Miami, USC. Auburn has Florida has Florida State, Cal, Colorado, Miami, Utah, Arizona State. That's on top of Florida State. Look at Georgia. They got Georgia Tech every year. Then they got 3 with Clemson, 2 with Florida State, 2 with Texas, 2 with UCLA, Oklahoma, Oregon, Virginia. On and on, all these schools. And then you see Tennessee's list. 2 games with Oklahoma, 2 with Nebraska, and 2 with Pittsburgh, which isn't exactly the Pittsburgh of the 1980s when majors scheduled them and they were in the top 10 down here. Gentlemen, I look at this and I just think it looks cowardly. Don't claim, if you want to be Kentucky and Mississippi, fine, you're scheduling like them. But I think Philip Fulmer's done a lot of great things so far. I think he's done an outstanding job so far. That's one where that's his next mission, improve the schedule. That's my view. And there are people out there throwing stuff at the TV right now saying, we can't beat anybody. We need more games against Akron. Well, again, if you're going to lose to Georgia State anyway, then go play a big boy. Your thoughts on scheduling when you look at Tennessee compared to their SEC rivals?
After winning the bowl game, Jeremy Pruitt said this is going to be the decade of the Vols, right? Well, it should be ready. So, yeah, my hope would be that that's going to change and that they find ways to add to the schedule and that the level of competition outside the conference improves greatly, because Philip Fulmer's been a part of that. He's played and coached as an assistant, as a head coach against those big boys outside of the SEC, and I hope that returns.
Well, I look at that and I think also about SEC basketball, John, because didn't they make the coaches and the schools make a concentrated effort to improve their schedules? It's the same in football. People aren't just going to automatically show up because Tennessee's playing. They're staying at home more. They're watching it on TV. Bring some elite competition. Bring better quality opponents.
I just think it's more fun to watch.
More fun to talk about, more fun to build up to, and you're going to get more attention around the country. People are going to check out Clemson and Georgia playing, and Alabama against Florida State. People are not going to check out Tennessee, Pittsburgh outside of Knoxville and Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think it's the
I
draw.
think it makes sense to try and schedule one opponent kind of from the South and then one national opponent.
Well,
I'd be great to see Tennessee UCLA play.
Yeah, fans even love the discussion of who should Tennessee go out and play. That's a popular summer radio topic of which schools would you like to see Tennessee add to the schedule. You hear Texas all the time. Other SEC schools are adding Texas.
Well, I went and looked and was trying to figure out other big schools. I mean, you saw Florida State has 2 with Alabama, 2 with Georgia, 10 with Florida, 2 with the LSU, I think. Their dance card's full, so you're probably not going to get Florida State. But I was looking. You did have them on the schedule at one point, and it got canceled. Ohio State. That's a long way off, but they're open in 2028, 2029. You're open in 2028, 2029. That's an easy 5-hour trip for both fan bases, and by then, 10 years from now, we'll probably be out of COVID. So, Philip Fuller, pick up the phone, call the guys at Ohio State. That'd be a great intersectional matchup.
And if you can't do that, can't you at least add one more conference game? I think.
Well, I'd agree with that. If you're going to
if you can't make this schedule better, let's at least go one more SEC game.
Well, and when you see schools that are now playing 2 big boys per year, like Florida and Georgia, then you really are lame when your biggest competition is BYU's not even in the Power 5. If that's your big game and somebody else in your division is playing 2 big-time foes,
yes, exactly.
That's weak. That needs to. If you're asking fans to pay money, we already talked about this a few weeks ago. That home field advantage hasn't been an advantage for Tennessee. It's over the last 15 years, going all the way back to 2005. It's 63% at home. Okay, well, I'm not getting a guaranteed win when I show up anyway. So give me a reason to go out and watch UCLA or something. Here's one. But I would feel better about things if they just put Memphis on the schedule every year. If Georgia's got to play Georgia Tech and South Carolina plays Clemson, put Memphis on there. That's not a Power 5 school, but at least that's something else to where it's better than 4 Akrons in a year.
Yeah, it's actually been a quality program recently, and there is always you can always find opinions when it comes to Tennessee Memphis.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, when we come back, the argument is, but we're not good. This is how we'll do that when we get back. I want to talk about whether or not a cupcake diet actually gets you back to a championship level. It hasn't for me. Come on back on the Sports Source.